Right guys, just wanted to give you some information on the DPF on this vehicle, 2019 Prado. It's got about 9,200 Ks on it. So I'm just going to I'll just turn the power back and actually I'll start the car just as easy so you can see this. I switched it off, that's why it went like that. DPF information, okay? Now, that's what I do. I just give you information, right? Information as it is, whatever. Do what you want with it, believe it or not. Ripley's believe it or not, you know. Same as all the deals, sponsors, people we use for whatever it is. Just there it is. There's information. You can use it or not. Now, this one is regarding DPFs. Obviously, everybody's got their own ideas of what does and doesn't happen with a DPF burn and all this sorts of thing. So what I want to show you is on this particular vehicle, 2019 software, what does happen. So I just got to go through and find a few. That'll do us, right? That'll do us. Okay, so this is what happens on these vehicles, right? See that 1 PM accumulation ratio, right? Particulate matter accumulation ratio, 8%. So what it does, slowly it goes up in increments of 2% at a time. So it'll go 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. You know, you can figure it out. So, and I'd estimate it probably goes up 2% around every 5 Ks or something like that. So if you work it out, you know, they're saying they do a burn about every 300 Ks. Well, that may be right. Let's work that out. So 2%, that's 50 in 100. So 50, what I say, 5 Ks, 5 times 50, there's 250 Ks. So there you go. So approximately correct. So whether it's based on 300 Ks or what, it doesn't matter. I'm just telling you what I see. About every 5 Ks that goes up 2%. Then what happens is it gets to 100%, right? And you can see above it says status rejuvenation, punching about standby. That just stays on standby, nothing changes. What happens is, look, mine, it hit 100%, and just at the time I was about to go on a motorway, so I did that. And then it started dropping quite quickly, 98, 96, 94, and that it was probably dropping, I'd say 2% every less than a minute. I would say that I would have estimated it was going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. Now, just to mess things up a little bit, because everybody thinks you've got to be doing these highway drives, whatever. Now, I suggest generally you've got to be driving it right to get the burn done correctly. You can probably get away with a parked burn every now and then, but it may not work if it happens like that every time, you know what I mean? If you're in traffic sort of thing, that's probably where a lot of the issues are. So anyway, to mess it up, what we did about 5 Ks at 100 Ks. I think it came down to about 70%. Then we drove along at 60 Ks just to see if it would keep reducing and continue the burn. So we did some roundabouts and did about 60 Ks, and it continued dropping down to, you know, probably 50, you know, 60, 50, 40. I can't remember exactly what it was at. Then we sort of did 80 Ks and obviously it continued dropping. Then I said, well, let's stop and see what happens. So we stopped, we put it in neutral, and I observed the revs pop up to about 900 revs, and I went, well, that's odd. So obviously it did that. I didn't have time to muck around too much with the scan tool. Obviously I was stopped, I was driving, I had someone else holding the scan tool, reading, showing it to me sort of thing. But while we were stopped, I did notice that the revs came up a little bit. So I think at that point it was down to about 30%. So even at 30%, because obviously at some percentage, it's going to stop the burn. It's going to say, yep, that's low enough, let's stop, and we'll just do it. Obviously when it builds up to 100 again, we'll do it again, perhaps, right? This is all in theory. Nobody's out there giving us exact information, so this is what we do. We reverse engineer it to work out exactly what's going on. So we drove off again, all good, and back to 80, 90, 100 Ks, and watched the percentage dropping again quite quickly. It got down to about 10 or 8% where it is now. Then what we did, because it was under 10%, so instead of being about 30, it was about 10, so I thought, let's do it again. So we came to a stop, and it was on 6% when we came to a stop. Made a turn and got going again, and it didn't change. It stayed on 6. So obviously the burn finished. It went for approximately, let me just think to get it right. It was about 15 minutes, give or take. So the burn went for about 15 minutes. You wouldn't have known it was happening if you were driving. You wouldn't have known a thing. No difference whatsoever. Look, it might obviously put in a little bit more fuel, but it's going to be less than 10% for about 10 minutes. So it's not really going to affect your fuel economy a measurable amount, considering the burn lasts for that long, only every 300 k's. It's probably going to affect your fuel about 1%, if that. You know, so something, but probably I'd suggest less than 1%, depending how the vehicle's being driven. If you're in traffic and it's got to do the burn at idle and put more fuel in, that's where it's going to affect it. If you're on the highway at 100 k's, it's probably not going to change one little bit. So anyway, what's happened so far? We got to 6%. We drove again at 100 k's for a few k's just to see. No change whatsoever, and then it hit 8%, because as I said, that's what it does. It starts going back up again slowly. The car's idling at the moment. I don't think this is a measured amount. I think it's a software, it's a program, and it just goes up 2% every probably 5 minutes. That's why I was sort of just going to talk a bit more, and let's see if it goes from 8 to 10. We're just sitting here idling. Anyway, guys, there's a whole heap of information about what actually happens with the DPF regeneration on a 2019 Prado, and anything that does that's either got that software or an update to that software. That's what it's going to do. Dispelled a few myths. Obviously, when you come to a stop, it does continue the burn, at least for a certain amount of time. In further videos and testing, what we'll do, we'll stay stopped for 5-10 minutes and see how long it continues at 900 revs and watch the percentage, but that'll be in another video. So you know the deal. If you haven't already, subscribe, turn notifications on so you don't miss the next most important information. Come back to you soon. Have a nice day. See ya.